Brent Johnson, and today I'm in St. Louis, Missouri again. I have come to historic Trinity Lutheran Church. With me is Jeff White, organist of Historic Trinity. Why is this a historic church? Why do we put that in the name?
It is the mother church of the Lutheran Church of Missouri Synod. This is when that particular synod was founded by C.F.W. Walther, Carl Ferdinand Wilhelm Walther. Wow. We always just say C.F.W. Walther, was pastor of this church, and also our daughter church, Holy Cross, which we'll talk about later. And so he was also a very important person as far as music was concerned. He was an organist himself, so I'm sure he had input into the first organs here at Historic Trinity. So founded in 1839, we were located at 3rd and Lombard at the time. And then we moved out here to what was the country at the time, talk about urban sprawl, and they built this building in the 1860s, 1864.
Yeah, because we're certainly not in the country anymore. We're in
Correct.
the Soulard neighborhood, where I was just a few weeks ago on my bike, and we can see downtown St. Louis from the front of the church here. So the city has grown around the church, certainly, but it's interesting to think about this being a long way out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
But the church has been here since that time, after they moved there, and the building has been through a lot.
It has. So in 1896, there was a massive tornado that ripped through here, and I'm going to just touch on Holy Cross again because they were damaged first, not nearly as much as this building was. So pretty much everything you're looking at is from 1897 at this point.
It was all rebuilt.
They rebuilt it in a year, which was amazing. So the original organ would have been in the choir loft here where we are now, I think in that archway. That window didn't exist at the time. And pretty much that whole end of the church was gone. It used to go to the alley at the time.
Oh, wow.
So when they rebuilt, they made the decision, which I'm not sure why, but they made the decision to put the organ up in front. So the new chamber was built up in front there, and the console was built into the front of the case at the time. Okay. It was a 2-manual instrument. I had been told it was tracker, and then I was told it wasn't a tracker, but at any rate, it was there. And then in the 1930s, they decided to expand it further, made it 3 manuals, electrified the thing, and put the console over in that corner, up in that lot. So the choir sang from up there, and all the music took place.
Well, let's talk about those organs. You mentioned the original instrument that was destroyed by the tornado, or mostly destroyed, because some of the pipes. Well, who built that first organ?
We believe it was Pfeffer. It was a Pfeffer instrument.
Okay. That would make sense here in St. Louis. And then that instrument
came in 1926.
And that was built by
Kilgan.
That was the Kilgan Organ Company. Okay. And then Kilgan then later electrified it and did some other things to it. So,
right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, now it has been, the organ has almost doubled in size. We have organ back here in the gallery as well as the front. And this has all been done by the Schantz Organ Company.
Correct. So the Kilgan was starting to show issues, problems. They kept fixing them and kept breaking, as pipe organs will do over time. So finally the church made the decision, the brave decision actually, to replace the organ. But there were a couple of stipulations. One is that the new organ had to retain the Trinity sound. I have yet to understand what that means. I'm hoping I'm giving them that with this. But the other thing was that they wanted to retain as much of the Kilgan as they could. So out of the 52 ranks that we have in the organ now, 20 of them, I'm counting 20. Their Schantz's sheet says 19. But at any rate, that's almost half of the organ still the Kilgan.
We still have a lot of that original older stuff in here. Okay.
And I have to say, Schantz did a marvelous job on marrying the two together. I mean, with their new pipe work to the Kilgan. One of the things I wanted to mention real quick, though, is because I find this a fascinating story, is that when the work started, that is to say, this balcony was all just pews up here. And so they redid the balcony floor. They installed this 9-rank gallery organ first, which does have some pedal as well. And then they removed the Kilgan. So the congregation was never without a pipe organ during the whole installation process.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, so I guess I'm ready to hear some of it.
Okay.
Now, explain what do we have with our gallery and what do we have in the front?
So the gallery is just that. It's almost like a positive organ, so it's this top row of stops here.
One division.
One division.
And where does that play?
It plays on the choir natively, but it can be put on the grate or the swell as well.
Okay, so you can put it anywhere.
It's kind of confusing sometimes to me because there's a gallery off coupler, so you got to be careful if you're programming, registering on the choir and the gallery. You got to keep that in mind.
But if you don't want it to play with the choir and you want the gallery somewhere else.
Right,
okay,
right.
That makes sense.
So and then the great choir, swell, and pedal are all up front.
All up there. All right. Well, let's start with the gallery. Tell me what we got back here. Let's do something different.
So like I said, it almost functions like a mini positive. It almost is enough to lead in congregational singing. And because we're up here, you'll hear it differently on the microphones. It's a little bit brighter up here than it would be. But we'll start out with the 8-foot diapason. So full-length pipes there.
It's called a violin diapason.
Right. So it's a little thinner than I think than a open diapason.
This is all new Schantz pipework, correct?
All of this is new Schantz pipework, correct. I'm going to skip over the voce umana for just a second and go to the gedeckt. So that is a stopped flute. This is one of the few ones that are borrowed. So it also plays at 4 foot, the Spielflöte. Which is one of my favorite stops. So if I put that with the gedeckt, those are great accompaniment stops.
Yeah, definitely.
And I should mention too, the gallery is all under
I
expression.
should say it's expressive. So if you've got the choir right here, that's a great way to give them some notes right in their ear without overwhelming them.
Exactly. Right. And I have to brag on my choir that they actually can out-sing the organ up here, so it's kind of amazing. We do have a 4-foot principal, independent. Very bright, present sound. And then we have a 2-foot doublet, which I thought that was too bright until I had Schantz come in and then they told me, nope, go down there and listen. And I thought, no, don't touch it, it's fine. And it works well with the 8 and 4 flute too.
Yeah, lovely.
Then we do have a 3-rank mixture. And then finally, the reed sfogato. Kind of a thin, more miniature trumpet almost.
What does that sound like within the full chorus and the reed?
Include the mixture?
Include the mixture.
Okay.
See what it sounds like. To my ear, the mixture's almost bigger than the reed in that.
It almost is. It almost is. But again, when you're down in the room, it's not quite the same. Okay. And this room, by the way, is acoustically perfect. So how it sounds here is almost how it sounds out there.
And we have a Zimbelstern in this division.
We do.
Which we usually forget to talk about, but I think it's worth mentioning here.
So this is a Schantz-made Zimbelstern. It has 5 bells in it, and it takes a minute before they start to really resonate. And kind of the nice part about that is that it's under expression, so it's inside the box.
Lovely.
The flute and the reed both also play at 16, and the flute plays at 8 in the pedal, so independently.
All the way down to 16.
And
that's not available 16 on the manual.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then we'd have the 8 and 4 coupler.
That's quite a big chorus for just this one little division up here.
Yeah, so I can imagine that during that time when they were doing the installation of the main organ, that this served as the
full
instrument.
Organ. Okay. I imagine it makes a nice little echo too between the two.
It does. It does. And because of the echo in the room, I'm hearing the congregation just like a half second behind when they sing. So it's helpful to have some stops on up here when I'm playing hymns and stuff too, to keep me on time. Then the last stop we haven't touched was the voce umana. Right. That's the Celestine rank, and I'm going to close the box down for starting. And this is working with the violin diapason. Nice undulation with that. And if I open that up, it gives you the effect of a strings. Yeah. It also works well with the 8-foot flute. Oh. Almost works as a nice flute celeste.
Okay.
And then we have the tremolo on this. Everything except the pedal has its own tremolo, which is kind of cool.
All right, well, let's come on down now. The grate is the next division on this side.
Right. So one thing just to preface when we get to the pedal only has 3 ranks of its own.
Okay.
Everything else comes from the manuals. The 16-foot Borden and also plays at 8-foot on the grate, and those do come from the pedal. So they added on the 29 pipes to the top of that to make that, to put that on. So that is one of the borrowed ranks. And this is Kilgan. If I switch it to the 8-foot.
So that was initially a Kilgan pedal rank.
Right.
That they made into a manual rank by extending.
Exactly.
Okay, very nice.
Okay, then we'll move to the first open diapason. The facade in the front, the first 14 notes are in the facade from this rank. The rest of them are artificial. The ones that are up here are artificial, and the ones that face the altar are artificial. That's hard to say. It's a tongue twister. So here's the first open.
Big and broad, like I would expect from a Kilgan first.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as I'll tell you at Holy Cross too, it's a little bit bigger than what I like to have for congregational singing with an amount of people. Now, if this church was completely packed, it would be necessary to use that to support it. The second open diapason is Schantz. A little bit more of a principal tone than
Different quality. Okay.
we have a 4-foot principal. Brightly, I like that with a.
Indeed. Okay.
Okay. We have a 2 2/3 12th. That is a Kilgan stop.
Oh.
And I'm going to put that with the 8-foot diapason.
I feel like it was made to go more with the first.
We can try that. And we have the
They both
super
work.
coupler to make that kind of a quasi cornet. Especially if you put the tremolant with that, that would make it
okay.
nice. Because there is only one cornet in the organ, and that's in the swell.
Okay. It's a very piquant little 12th.
I
sticking
agree.
out there, so,
I agree. And then we have the 2-foot 15th. So put that with the chorus. Twelfth to that.
Yeah, the 12th is the only one that kind of jumps out as a little out of place, not necessarily use. I mean, it's useful. It adds a lot of color. But yeah, let's try it with the first and
Yes.
and those. Yeah, I think it stands up a little more to the first. But then again, those are both Kilgan stops, so that would make sense.
That's true. And I will say that I normally don't use that like with the ensemble up to mixture unless I put on the high-ranking mixture over on the swell.
see.
Couple that down. I use the Nazard and the swell instead.
Okay.
And then we have a 1 1/3 mixture. We have a little misprint on the stop knob, but that is a 1 1/3.
Yeah, nice full sound. Okay.
And if we put that with the open, first open.
Yeah, that first definitely has so much more fundamental.
It does. It
bass to
does.
it.
And when I took this position originally as the associate music director, I recorded all my registrations and I went downstairs and listened to them on the playback system. And there were times where I was, oh, that has to come off. Oh, this needs to come on. And then sort of.
It's nice to be able to do that.
It is very nice to be able to do that.
We also have a set of chimes in the grate.
We do, and this was from the original Kilgan organ. The Hanser family donated the original chimes. They didn't put the name on the stop knob this time, but.
Nothing.
The son of the man who donated those chimes, when they put the organ in, I think they were originally at the entryway to the chamber. They're now up in that upper right-hand corner, and he thought we'd not put them in. So he was a little freaked out, and Wes had to assure him that, no, they're there.
Okay. And I'm only going to mention it again because here we have another Zimbalstern.
Right,
Two
which-
Zimbalsterns in the organ. And this one's different.
This one's different. This one was retained from the original organ, was put in by St. Louis Pipe Organ at some point.
Okay.
They kept it in there. We're going to hear the same Zimbalstern at Holy Cross when we go there, but it's up in front and not under expression.
So you can have bells coming from all over the room if you decide
We
to.
can. And we had a theater organist here do a concert one time, and he used both of them at the same time. I thought, oh, that's a neat sound. I think I'm going to try that some other time. So we have a 8-foot gamba. Not quite as stringy as what I'd
No,
expect
and is
of a
that
string.
Schantz,
That
or-
is a Schantz stop.
Okay, so
yes.
yeah, it's again giving me more of a thin diapason, Geigen diapason sort of sound.
Exactly.
So that's useful.
Very useful. I'm going to skip that for a second. We did the board already. So the chimney flute, This is a curious stop to me, and I've heard this on other Schantzes. They like to put their chimney flute in the grate at 4 foot, but there's a little bit of a harmonic chirp to it that is kind of delightful, actually. Interesting quality of that.
What does the 4 foot sound by itself? Yeah, interesting sound. Okay.
I like it though.
Yeah.
It's really okay. So this stop actually is reverse engineered from a single pipe that survived the Great Tornado of 1896 that ripped this building apart. Schantz actually created this using that as a model.
So it
would
would have been a single Pfeffer pipe that was left. That's okay.
Correct. So so it's neat because it's a nice contrast to the Borden, which is on here, almost like a harmonic flute would be.
So a large scale open flute.
Wooden
Open flute,
actually.
yeah, of course.
And the bottom of that is the Borden, the first 12
Okay.
notes, but then from there up.
So they had to figure out guess what the scaling would have been for the rest of the notes and to make it work. But it works really well. How does it sound with the 4 foot chimney flute? Just out of
Sure.
curiosity? Yeah, that works really well. How about the Philomena and the Gamba?
Okay.
It adds a little bit of edge to it, but that Philomena is a big sound. So.
It does. It does.
But a unique quality from the 1890s, so that's great to hear here in this instrument.
And then we have a tromba, and I'm not sure if that's Schantz or Kilgan. There was evidence of why it was an older stop when we had an issue with that. We had to send it back to have it reworked. But it's got a nice fat sound to it.
Lovely.
I think it makes a nice...
Yeah, it really adds a lot to the chorus.
It definitely
Okay.
does. It definitely does. We'll skip the tuba until we get to the choir.
Okay.
So we have 10 reeds in this organ, 5 of which are in the swell, but that's the only one on the grate.
Okay. So yeah, the choir then is the next division down under the grate. So
Okay.
let's go through there. What do we have?
So we have a Geigen principal at 8 foot, full length. I'm doing everything in C major.
I'm almost interested to hear that compared to the great Gamba.
Okay. This is the gamba.
I think the Geigen principal has more string sound than the Gamba in this situation.
You're right. I hadn't noticed that before, but you're absolutely right on that.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
Okay. Then we have a Dulciana, 8 foot, which is just a lovely stop. And then we have an Unda Maris to go with that. If I close the box.
And are those Kilgan stops?
So yeah, I was just going to mention, the choir is all Kilgan except for 2.
Okay.
And so everything, the Fugara being one of them. So this is a Schantz stop. This is a new one.
Very nice. Okay.
We have 2 8-foot flutes, the Clarabella being the first one, which I really like this Clarabella a lot. And then the 8-foot Gedeckt. Little breathier. The thing about the choir that always interests me is that it's a little bit more understated. It's kind of tucked into that left side and down a little bit, but it's a great division. And then we have this 2-foot Zauberflute, I guess is how you say that, which is German for magic flute. I didn't know that until I looked it up. I thought it was kind of cool. So if we put that on an ensemble with the principals.
Because the Fugara is the only four you have
that's
in
correct.
this division. Interesting. So it kind of gives it a little brighter, stringier sound.
Well, I think they were limited in what they could do because of space. The Kilgan before this instrument actually, they said that chamber was so packed full of pipes that you couldn't get to some of them to tune them. And Schantz, I have to give them credit, they did a marvelous job of laying this out. There's not one pipe you can't touch now. And also the fact that every division has the subcoupler, supercoupler, and unison off ability, except for the gallery. That's the only one that does not. Then we have a lovely clarinet, again, one of my favorites. And it makes a great color read for that.
Huh, amazing.
It speaks well if you have a bigger ensemble on the other divisions too, and bring the clarinet on as a color read too, so it's kind of nice. And then we have the big guy, the tuba.
Okay.
So the tuba is available in the choir, is where it lives, the grate, and also in the pedal, and it is non-coupling.
Okay.
So 18 inches of wind.
Oh.
And that actually is the former great trumpet.
Oh, really?
They moved it down and they put it on 18 inches of wind.
Made it really speak up. Okay.
They did, and it's a great solo stop. Really comes out of the top of the ensemble. If you throw the 4-foot coupler on, that just makes it even almost Anschamad-like, but it's very big. Big voice. Luckily, it's under expression as well, so you can close that off and have it not be quite as big.
Well, that's amazing. All right, well, from this side, we go over there to the swell division.
Swell division is the biggest
big,
division.
yeah.
It's about half and half Kilgan, half Schantz.
Okay.
This has another extension, so in the 16-foot Lieblich also plays at 8 foot as a stop diapason. This is Kilgan.
Okay.
Here's the 8 foot. So that's also available in the pedal as 16 and 8 foot as well. Then we have the open, or it's just diapason, not open diapason, but it is. The bottom of them are being haskelled, but this is a large principle for being in the swell. I really enjoy this. And this is also Kilgan.
That is big. Yeah. Okay.
Let's move over to the principal. So the principal 4 is a Schantz stop. Nice and bright with that. So you couple that with the diapason.
It stands up to it nicely.
It does. It definitely does. And then we have a 5-rank mixture at the 2-foot pitch. That one is correct. And I'd like to use that as the crowning on top of the mixture.
I was gonna say, that really sounds like it's supposed to go on top of this chorus.
Almost like a cymbal or a...
Yeah.
Yes.
That's such a big jump there from 8/4 to that big 5-rank mixture. So.
And what I really like about it as a personal touch is that when I did my master's program at Concordia University, Wisconsin, the chapel organ there had a similar stop that worked just like that. So it's kind of reminiscent of that for me.
Okay.
Then we move up to the next row, which is the strings. So we have a solitional at 8 foot. This is Kilgan. Along with the Celeste. If I close the box down,
It's a very keen sound, especially
It is.
for Kilgan even.
It is. Trying to play the Bailman piece with the, it's kind of hard with that one. But it does work nicely if you add the stop diapason as well. Gives a little bit more warmth and depth to it.
Okay.
Then we have a lovely flauto traverso. I love this stop. I know Holy Crosses is the same way. It makes a great solo as well. If I put the tremolo with that, it's reminiscent of the orchestral flute,
definitely.
I think. But couple that with the 8 and 4 the stop diapason, excuse me.
Yeah, lovely. Okay.
So that both of those are, of course, are Kilgan as well.
Okay.
Then we get to the 2 2/3 Nasat, and that is Schantz. Or with the 8-foot diapason.
Say it sounds more like a flute scale, but that diapason is so big and round that it kind of works there as well.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a flute. Then we have the 2-foot recorder. Gentle without being overbearing. There it is in the flute chorus. It also works well with the principal chorus. Kind of gets that principal to sing a little bit more even. And then finally we have the tierce, and we'll do that with the 8-foot stop first. It does go all the way down.
Really?
Making that into a cornet with the flutes only. And like any cornet, you can switch off stops, so let's switch to the diapason 8. Or the principal. There's different colors you can do with that.
Lovely.
Okay, so that's those. Then, as I mentioned, we have 5 reeds in the swell.
Wow.
This is another one of the few extensions that we have. The Waldhorn, these are both Schantz. The Waldhorn is full length, 16-foot metal. It actually, the boots of it are in the choir, and then it goes through the ceiling of the choir into the swell box. Lots of fundamental there.
Yeah, definitely.
So it also plays at 8-foot as a cornopian. Kind of more rounded, fatter tone. Contrasted to the new French trumpet, which is a Schantz stop. Franck loves that French trumpet. It's wonderful.
Brighter sound, but it's not overpowering. It's
It
just
is
nice
not.
and bright.
It is not, exactly. Then we have one of my favorite stops, which is the oboe, and this is a Kilgan stop. That works well as an ensemble reed as well. Actually, all of them do, but I frequently pull that one during like a Sanctus or something where I just want a little bit of reed, but not something that smack the congregation with. And then one of the things that excites me is that this 4-foot clarion is a complete independent stop. It's not an extension.
Very good.
Got a nice bright sound to that.
But it sounds it's closer to the cornopian than the French trumpet.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
So if we just do the reeds at 16, 8, and 4,
That's with the cornopian. What happens if you change it with the French trumpet instead? You get a very different reed chorus by just changing that one stop out.
exactly. And last but not least, we have the little Vox Humana, which is surprisingly in tune today given the weather. Another one of those that I should use more. And of course, if you throw in a mutation or something, you get a totally different character. Got a lot of fun stuff with it.
Well, and you said there's only a few pedal ranks that are actually independent.
Correct. So we have the full-length 16-foot open diapason, wooden. It's on the back wall. The bottom pipe's about that wide.
Is this Kilgan?
This is Kilgan.
Yeah, they love their open diapasons.
Painted gray is typical. A little too big for congregational singing, but it makes it great for a final stanza kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not quite the balcony shaker that we'll see at Holy Cross with their double open diapason, but still got some presence in the room.
Yeah.
Also plays at 8 foot. And at 4 foot. I think the top 12 of those are metal, otherwise the whole thing is wooden. So that's one rank in the pedal. The other one is the Borden that we talked about that also plays in the grate. And the final one in the pedal is the trombone, also full-length wooden resonators. So very big sound there. So then we have the cornopian plays at 16, 8, and 4 in the pedal. And then we have the tuba available in the pedal. And then, as I mentioned, the gallery also plays in the pedal at 16 and at 8, 16 and 8 on the flute.
Well, that's a amazingly complete organ, one of everything you need, and
Just
two
about.
of some other things.
That's
so,
right.
And it's all in this wonderful new console. It's low and easy. You can conduct the choir easily from here. And,
Correct. And it's movable.
Yeah, and it moves all around. So not that you have a ton of direction to go, but you can certainly change which direction you're looking and then slide it down to that end if you want, I suppose.
Yeah, we had a silent movie night, and we actually had it completely rotated around. There's a good deal of cable coiled up in the floor. Originally, we had it turned perpendicular, and then I turned it this way because I'm the sole person here and to direct the choir, and I just like having my back, less distractions, and have my back to the congregation. Sure. But one of our congregation members approached our congregational president and said, "Do we pay to have that moved?" It rolls. It's okay.
Well, wonderful. It's a beautiful instrument. It all sounds lovely, and I can't wait to hear a little more of it.
Okay.
Well, since we're in the gallery, we'll start with this division. It simply has some panels that open on the side. We can look underneath. It's where we get to the bottom of the 16-foot. Some of the stop bases are in here and all the winding. We're going to go up the ladder to the pipe chamber. And here we are. There's a chest in the front and one in the back. The front has all the flues. It's on a thirds layout, major thirds on each side. And in the back we have the unit chest. There's our fagotto, which goes down to 16 foot. And some Haskelled pipes in here for the basses. There's our first cymbal stern. And there's the 16 foot going all the way down to the floor below. And now to get up to the main part of the organ, we go to the front of the church, and we go through the hallways back here. One leads to a stairwell. We go up one flight of stairs, and there's a door, and we're in the organ chamber. We're following Jeff into the grate. We're underneath the choir right now.
This is where the grate and pedal. The altar's over here on this side. So we have the open diapason back here.
And from here we go up to the next level. And here we are, we're in the grate. Again, we have a unit chest here in the back. There's more flutes and reeds. With some of our pedal around the back side there. And then in the front we have, again, divided third chest with all of our upper work, our 4-foot roar flute, the concert flute. All of these are right behind the facade. Some of that facade is speaking. We have some Haskell pipes here as well for the lowest pipes. Here's looking out towards the facade that faces the altar. There's a look at the rear chest. These pipes are all non-speaking here that face the altar because they have this very nice piece of supportive ironwork here that intersects the bodies of the pipes, and so real speaking pipes wouldn't be possible. And up there is the swell. We'll get up to there next, but we go a different way to get there. So we're back underneath where we came in. This is the regulator for the tuba in the choir, which is right above us. But beyond that is the swell. So here's a ladder going up to a trap door. And once we're through, we have to close the trap door. And then there's a door right here that leads into the swell division. And in we go. Once again, we have two chests. The rear chest, which is laid out diatonically, has the unit stops in it. There's 16-foot and 8-foot boardings back there, as well as all the reeds. Along the back wall is the 16-foot manual stop. And then here in the front we have our major thirds chests. These are slider chests with all of our swell upper work and our harmonic flute. Again, more Haskell pipes in here for the basses. And next we'll go out through the swell shades and peek down. There's the grate and pedal. These are the altar-facing dummy facade pipes that are painted quite nicely all the way around. That's where I was standing just a minute ago looking up at the swell. So we're going to go back outside to the walkboard outside the swell. And the first thing we see back here are the 16-foot pedal reed, the top of that. So that can be accessed back here. And there's another door that lets you get to the bases of the 16-foot in the swell and the Borden, as well as these lowest ends of the 8-foot. So you can reach those if you need. And we have a sighting of our second cymbal stern. From here we go back down through the trapdoor, and right under us is the choir division. So we're going to get off the ladder, not quite all the way down, and here we are in the choir. The shades facing out to the church. Again, we have third layout chests, and all of this is old pipe work. This is all old Kilgan pipes, so they look like it. And then back behind us, we have the tuba. There's the bottom end of it against the wall. And on a very densely packed chest, we have the remainder of the rank. Now we've stepped out in front of the facade. This is the balcony in front of the organ. This is where the choir used to sit, and in fact the console was here up this with your back to the congregation at one point.
Jeff, thanks so much for showing us around this 2013 Schantz organ here at historic Trinity Lutheran in Soulard. This is an instrument, this is a place I've known a lot about, and I remember the old organ before the Schantz, and it's interesting to see how they managed to make it work, and without losing a day of music here in the church. They had that continuity. So you've mentioned more than once now Holy Cross Lutheran, which is another church here in St. Louis, and we're going to go there next because it has some connections both to this church and this organ,
Right.
And to the pastor that founded the Missouri Synod. So that's exciting to see. So some more history coming your way. That will be coming out soon. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel so you can catch that next video when it comes out. Until then, though, you can always find streaming classical organ music on our 3 stations: organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and the Organ Experience. Thank you to all of our sponsors who make it possible for us to get out and make things like this. If you would like to become a sponsor and help us make more videos, you can do that by going to organ.media and clicking on support. All of that goes to making these videos, not into anybody's pocket. It helps us find great people like Jeff who know the history of these instruments and these churches, and it's so much fun to get to talk to you. So thank you, Jeff, for all your experience. And until next time, I'm Brent Johnson. Thank you for watching.